Birds are important organisms that play a significant role in the ecosystem. Without the birds, all the things about plant pollination and all of that will not be happening. The birds that we have migrate from city to city, from country to country. So every year we have this kind of enlightenment program, and we also carry out some other publications. We have bird clubs.
The world's population contributes to birds going into extinction and it must be stopped. This gathering emphasizes a major challenge, light pollution. In a dramatic presentation, the students raise more awareness.
We've invited people across board, from students to media to just members of communities that are not necessarily scientists or conservation biologists, so that when they hear these messages said in a simple language that everyone can understand, they're able to cascade this using, and then we've used social media, traditional media also to perpetuate these messages. We must realize that the well-being of those other things we share the ecosystem is linked to our well-being. So in endangering them, we're endangering ourselves. So always take note of other organisms within the environment, and when you notice that there's being changes, we need to make adjustments to our own way of life so that we can accommodate everything for our general well-being.
You can classify birds broadly into two categories. You have the migrants and you have the resident birds. So some birds migrate. Now, even amongst those that migrate, the scale of migration also differs. You have birds that migrate, for example, from Europe into Africa, and then you have some other birds that migrate only within Africa. Birds are of vital importance to humans. Pollination can be seen as one benefit that humans derive, because if pollination does not occur, then food is not available for humans. By feeding on insects, they are reducing insects that should have become pests to humans. So that's a service. It's the Abdim stock in the northern part of Nigeria, which is known as, in Hausa, it's known as Shamwa. The local farmer, on seeing the bird at the beginning of the rainy season, knows that it's time to begin to prepare the farm prepare the land for farming. The starting point is education. When people are ignorant, they do things that are unsustainable. So education, sensitization is the crucial part. So more and more people need to know that birds are important to us.
Light pollution is a major threat to migratory birds like vultures, parrots, eagles, and hawks, among others, as it leads to disorientation when they fly at night. This in turn leads to collisions and also interferes with their long-distance migrations. Paul George, Plus TV News.
In the area of insecurity, weeks after the Abuja-Kaduna train attack, the Northern Women Association and Interfaith Group have organized special prayers for victims still in captivity. They are also seeking divine intervention over the worsening insecurity and other challenges bedeviling the nation. Our correspondent Habilai Darufai's report is presented from our studios.
Hundreds of women, religious interfaith groups and children have converged here to seek God's help for the safe release of the abducted train passengers. On March the 28th, the terrorists attacked the train, killing 9 passengers and abducting 62, including a pregnant woman and an 85-year-old woman. The president of the Jamaiya Matan Arewa, JMA, Hajia Rabi Salawa, says women must lend their voices to this cause, considering the pains parents go through with a mass abduction on a daily basis.
When we are mothers, we feel the pain of those families that were affected. The only thing we have is prayers. So we decided to call the family members and our women and our religious leaders. As you can see, Khan is here, JNI is here. Let them pray for Ariwa, let them pray for these victims. Let them also pray for our leaders to guide them, to give them the wherewithal for them to do what is right.
The chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, Kaduna State Chapter, Reverend Joseph Hayab, says insecurity and evils are on the rise in the society, and as such, everyone must come together to fight the scourge.
People of faith, we will not give up praying just because evil continues to grow. We believe in God, we believe in His intervention, and we know He's going to intervene. So we are joining the families and joining all others well-wishers to seek the face of God, that very soon our brothers and sisters who have been in this bush for a long time will come back. Governance is about protecting lives and properties. If you don't protect me, even if you build everything for me, I can use them because they are not useful to me. So protection of lives and property becomes the most ideal things we want today in Nigeria. We need two things: freedom and protection of lives and properties.
Also, renowned Islamic scholar Sheikh Ahmed Gumi says the leader are pushing Nigerians into crimes because of the hardship in the land. He lamented that leaders are busy seeking political offices ahead of 2023, while 62 Nigerians are being held captive.
We should do whatever we can do to get them out first. These people are in the bush, they cannot run away. They're in the bush, they cannot run away. So we just answer their needs immediately and free the victims. And we pray that it will not happen again to anybody. And we pray that this nation will unite together and Allah will bring tranquility in the nation so that we prosper. Because with this insecurity, we don't see any development coming. So we want the government to be proactive, to consult with people who are genuinely looking for this situation. This is no time for blaming other people. It's time to come together and see how that we get out of this problem.
They urged families of the victims to hope on God, believing that they will be reunited with their loved ones soon.
It's time for a short break now. We will be back with more stories.
For upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bookie November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now, as part of measures towards finding a lasting solution to the issues bedeviling the transportation sector, the Lagos State government has unveiled plans to deploy the use of technology for effective movement. The Commissioner for Transportation, Frederick Oladeyinde, said this would take the front burner at the maiden edition of a National Transport Technology Conference and Exhibition NTTCE scheduled to hold in June 2022. Plus TV correspondent Love Ikuku Oyedokun was there and now reports.
This press conference is heralding the maiden edition of the National Transport Technology Conference and Exhibition NTTCE coming up in Lagos. The 2 days conference will see key decision makers, experts and operators in the road, rail, water and air transport sectors discussing current and emerging trends in the sector, as well as fashioning out ways of integrating them into the Nigerian transportation space. Oladeyinde spoke on the importance of a national transportation policy which if all state governments key into, with coordination and harmony, could bring about an effective transport system.
What kind of investment do we need? Who are the key players? Who are the people willing to invest? And then what will be government's commitment? So every smart city must have a plan. We're developing a smart Nigeria. We're developing a smart Lagos. You must have a plan to get to that point. And the aim of this conference is to develop that communique that would help to develop the plan, and then to look at some of the obstacles to see what government's responsibility would be, and then what the private sector's responsibility would be.
He believes that the national policy on transportation will bring an end to leakages and corruption in the sector.
We move away from, exchanging cash to ensuring that once you have a card, everything is computerized, and then there's no exchange of cash, there's no way you can dupe other people, and then everything will be transparent. Now, the reason why you have a 100 naira ticket and then you're paying 1,000 is because everything is paper ticket, is not electronic. And that's why it's important that we move all our transactions from a cash system to a cashless system.
On her part, the Executive Secretary, National Transport Technology Conference and Exhibition, NTTCE, comprising of all commissioners of transportation in Nigeria, said that technology has been identified by the forum as a roadmap to ensuring safety, security, and revenue generation in the transportation sector.
This event promises to be an all-inclusive one as it seeks to galvanize players within transportation and the technology sector to explore innovative solutions, as well as fashion out workable action plans that will integrate transport, integrate smart transportation within the sector for the benefit of Nigerians.
Chinwe disclosed that the resolutions from the conference are expected to usher in an action plan which the federal government could draw policies from to enhance transportation in the country. From Lagos, Love Ikuku Oyedoku, Plus TV News.
Parents have been advised to be deliberate about the proper upbringing of their male children, be forerunners, disciplined, and good examples, as a good example is more potent than precepts. This was the consensus of stakeholders at the International Day for the Boy-Child Essay Competition organized by Mother's Love held in Lagos. Plus TV correspondent Love Ikuku was there and filed in this report.
In most African societies, more women and girls receive attention and consideration than the boy child, and as a result, the neglected boy generally grows up to be a bigger danger to society than the girl. A Mother's Love initiative, AMLI, a social change initiative that campaigns for the overall well-being of the African child, is worried about the trend and its consequences on their well-being in adolescence and young adulthood.
In the course of our project, The Hoary Child, which started about 6 years ago, we noticed that the boy child, a lot of the boys are not speaking. And this gave us a reason to say, okay, we need to talk about the boy child, because if the boy child is not doing well, it affects the family front.
Hanatu Ewemadu decried the growing neglect of the boy child, saying that this adversely affects their well-being and consequently threatens their future.
If we continue at this rate, it's going to be a huge problem, which we are already seeing right now. It's important for us to begin to speak about the boy child, to encourage our society to begin to see how we can encourage them, how we can embrace them, how we can lead them in the right direction.
Panelists agree that the bulk of the work lies on the table of parents to ensure that the boy child grows up to become a societal blessing and not a curse.
You have to be intentional about parenting. Children will be children, they will cry, they will manipulate. You have to understand your role. The Bible says, train up a child in the way he should go, and gives you a promise. When he is old, he will not depart from it.
In our younger days, if you misbehaved and you were disciplined outside, you pray that the person doesn't know your parents, because once you are reported to your parents, that's double jeopardy, because you will be punished again back home. So societal influences have become one of the perhaps banes in the bringing up of children.
To further amplify the campaign against the neglect of the boy child in Nigeria, AMLI created a platform for young boys to compete among themselves and to creatively render their insights on the topic that says, the importance of a father and son relationship from the lens of the boy child. From Lagos, Love Ikuku Oyedoku, Plus TV News.
It is still a disturbing experience for commuters plying the Akpabon area of Lagos State as the collapse of a part of the bridge and the subsequent closure has caused the traffic gridlock to adjoining areas to increase. Our correspondent, Uyime Efia, reports on the visible frustration.
Months after the tragic fire incident that damaged a section of Akpabon Bridge, the situation has expectedly worsened. Traffic gridlock is one of many pains for commuters, drivers and traders who ply this axis daily.
The traffic, when you lock the road down, the traffic is much. We are trying to appeal to federal or to state government to help us to know the alternative route to create for us so that you can enable vehicles to move freely on the road.
From this place to Pangu, which is 200 naira, have been going up to 500 naira. Simply, the transporters are being complained that the hold up is too much. Then the diversion being going down there before they turn around, before they come back to this place and pass this place. It have given from that place you can use almost 2 hours before you can get to this place.
It helps so many people a lot. Here people are selling, here people are going to work. More than, most people are taking this bridge because of this market.
They should leave us here. We manage ourselves. Now one person for 4 people for one shop, 3 people for one shop. Where we fall, they should allow us to get up from that place. Even though they want to carry us go another place, she won't be like it. She won't be as it be now. Where we fall, they should allow us to get up from that place. We beg federal, Lagos State and federal government. They should please, they should consider us. We need mercy from the federal government.
The closure of the bridge has spilled traffic to adjoining Igamu, Orile and Costain. Meanwhile, under the bridge, Plus TV News cited some engineers, but no serious work was being done. They refused to speak to us. Lagosians plying Akpabon area may have to wait more longer for the bridge to be rehabilitated, as it is not clear this would happen soon. Uyime Afia, Plus TV News.
And moving to business concerns, chief executive officers of businesses in Nigeria have been encouraged to engage and commit to growth and sustain innovation in Africa. This came up on the sidelines of CEO's Breakfast Roundtable hosted by the UN Global Impact Network, Nigeria in Lagos. Justin Akadoni tells us more.
Although it was a breakfast roundtable for the Assistant Secretary General of the United Nations Global Compact, CEOs from the private sector in Lagos converged on this whole to collaborate on the sustainability of the continent. The United Nations Global Africa Strategy 2021 to 2023 is a proposed roadmap to accelerate corporate sustainability and champions the business sector's contribution to sustainable development in the continent. In this panel session, the narrative of the Sustainable Development Goals takes center stage, including gender equity, decent work and economic growth, and climate action, among others.
By adopting sustainability, we were able to bring a very attractive value proposition to the oil and gas sector. Essentially, we halved the cost for logistics support, and we enabled projects which have never been done in Nigeria before to be done in Nigeria.
I think that within the business community, there's a very clear understanding that this is not just perhaps the right thing to do, but it is the absolutely commercial thing to do.
I believe that empowering women is pivotal to the shared success that we all strive to achieve, because the role women play in the empowerment of the family, the homes, and even the individuals cannot be wished away.
Resident Coordinator of the United Nations, as well as other top echelon of the Global Compact, throw more light on the essence of the sessions as they affect the private sector and even young people.
opportunities for young people to have to work with companies. So the idea is by giving them exposure to working in the private sector, they become more attractive as part of a future labor force.
It's more about how can private sector speak as one voice, and bring all the businesses together, partnerships. It's going to be very important what the brilliant organizations and bodies here that are already delivering on the SDG.
We want to unite the Africa and indeed Nigeria private sector to be able to help to work with governments in ensuring that the Sustainable Development Goals have impact.
The take-home message is sustainable business is the future. It's no longer business as usual. CEOs now understand that they need to operate responsibly, embed the 10 principles of the UN Global Compact, take actions to promote human rights in their business, ensure decent work in their operations, protect the environment where they live in.
The discussion also focused on identifying prevalent barriers and key actions to achieve the ambitions of the Africa Strategy. Justin Akadonye, Plus TV News, Lagos.
And that's all on this edition of Plus Reports. But before we go, let's remind you to please follow us at Plus TV Africa on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. And also do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa and Plus TV Africa Lifestyle. I am Adebanke Odunui. Thank you for watching.
From north to south and east to west, life in Nigeria has become dangerously unbearable. The country is faced with what seems to be endless waves of homegrown security threats and violence. Nigerians live in fear, from terrorism to kidnappings, armed banditry, farmer-herder clashes, ethnic violence, and separatist agitation. To better understand the causes of the unrest, as well as the true agitations of the people, Searchlight travels across Nigeria.
The bandits, I use the dark place, the forest place, to hang around. When our drivers reach there, they will come out and start shooting them.
In fact, if I can give an estimate, I can say that in a week we used to treat not less than five gunshots.
People and people living under siege.
Now, Owerri is too hot.
No rest of mind. To sleep for anybody.
If you sleep now, sleep with one eye closed, one eye open. Be vigilant. This is Igbora for you.
Igbora is one of the 7 communities that make up Ibarakwa land.
Ibarakwa land comprises of Igongon, Erua, Ayete, Takpa, Idere, Lanlate, and Igbora in Oyo State, Nigeria's southwest region. There is a long-standing history dating back to the early 20th century between settler herders who are mostly of Fulani descent and local farmers in the Ibarakwa axis. Recently, however, coexistence has become increasingly problematic as the communities are now plagued with kidnappings, farmer-herder clashes, reprisal attacks leading to the forceful ejection of Sarakins and Fulanis in the area.
I have been back home here in Igbora since January because of the armed herders and farmers crisis
that has been rocking nearby villages and farms. Although the Sarakin Fulani of Ngongo, Salihu, was evicted in January on accusations that he was helping evade justice, not much has changed. There are still incidences of kidnappings and attacks on farmlands.
This is Shekere village in Igbora. We live in fear. I do come earlier in the day and could enter the farm. You would find their cattle eating crops, and when confronted, they attack the owners of the farm. If perchance they meet a woman unaccompanied on the farm, she could be raped. There is no safety on farmlands.
The nomadic ones are moving around. The residential ones, we know them. Some of the residential ones are still within the community. They are peaceful. One incident occurred when our people they are outraged and they burnt all the Karas in the whole Ibarapa land, even that of Elua. In Igbora here now, there's no Kara again.
If you had burnt all the Karas in the whole of Ibarapa land, I want to think that Kara is a place for residential Fulanis.
No, Kara is a spot, a market for them to come and buy and sell.
So you have burnt.
Do you know?
Their economic spots.
Let me tell you some things about that Kara. Some things we discover about that Kara, especially that of Igbora here. That spot is a spot where they do hide their ammunitions. And in the night like this, they will pick up those ammunitions, go out, kidnaps, rob, anything they can do. And when they come back to town the following day.
Kabir, you've done a lot of work out of the Ibarapa land. What did you see? What do you know? Can you share your first-hand experience?
Not just in Igbora, not just in Lanlate, not just in Oyo State, but from my experience across the Southwest states, I realized that most of the killings, the kidnappings being perpetrated are being done by the Bororos, who are mostly referred to as foreigners. Some of these Bororos, they come into the country through Benin Republic, some through Cameroon, and you get to realize that in the essence of it all, some through Niger, that many of them are not the traditional Fulanis. And the reason is this: we've had cases where traditional Fulanis, those who are Nigerians, some of them who came from, who are from Kwara State, also alleged that they have also been kidnapped. They've also been victims of the attacks of these persons. Most times, those that perpetrate this, they don't even have any cattle. All they have is gun, sword, and other weapons.
The violence doesn't end there. Nigeria is faced with the Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast, banditry in the northwest, armed separatist agitations in the southeast, amid communal clashes in the Middle Belt, southwest, and south-south. Increasingly, violence between herders and farming communities is spreading from Nigeria's central belt southward, while kidnappings are rife nationwide. What exactly led to this?
When you see a failure of this scale, of this magnitude, and spread right across the country, the first thing that comes to mind is that somebody somewhere who has responsibilities to secure Nigerians has failed in their duties. There's no other explanation for this. So we have a country that is poorly run, poorly governed, and therefore unable to master the requirements of securing both citizens and the country itself. That is the first one. The second one is that there are a lot of opportunistic criminal activities going on. People understand the weaknesses, they perceive a weakness at the level of the state. They think the state is weak or the state is incapable of protecting citizens from all sorts of attacks, bandits, kidnappers, insurgencies, insurrections, secessionists, irredentists. All these people actually exist because the state has not been able to assert its obligation and responsibilities to protect citizens. And they are emerging and increasing by the day. The third one is the failure of the Nigerian elite to get together and demand that the Nigerian state does what it's supposed to do. The leadership does what they are supposed to do, that is to protect citizens. The voices that are supposed to be heard are not being heard. Too many people are quiet, either out of fear or because they think that they are not likely to make any impact if they don't raise their voices.
Traveling by road is now an extreme sport. On our trip to Kaduna State, we drove along the Kaduna-Benin-Gwari Road. The 123-kilometer road trip seemed easy enough, but we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. From Buruku village, right on the outskirts of Kaduna, there is a fully armored vehicle with soldiers who lead drivers 3 cars at a time from Buruku to Ojoa town. This stretch is considered to be the most dangerous. Drivers have to wait their turn as they stand no chance of traveling safely to and fro Benin-Gwari without these escorts. From Ojoa, the journey to Benin-Gwari is considered safe from the kidnappers and terrorists, whose victims are not just travelers but also villagers and farmers in and around this long stretch of road.
Our major problem in this area is insecurity. These terrorists have wrecked our town and destroyed our source of livelihood. Nobody sleeps in this town anymore. We take refuge in the neighboring community and come here every day at 8 or 9 a.m. and then leave at 3 or 4 p.m. Look at me. I'm the village head of this community. I used to own a car, but these criminals made me sell it to pay ransom for our children. I can't estimate how much we have paid to bandits as ransom because this community has been attacked more than 25 times.
We have a lot of problems in terms of insecurity on our road, more especially in between Burku and Udawa. So we have a lot of insecurity. We have only one vehicle, which is mobile police. They are the one escorting our members to carry them to Burku. Let's say from January up to now, at least we lost more than 30 of our members as a result of the bandits.
Forests in Nigeria are now hideouts for cattle rustlers, highway robbers, kidnappers and terrorists due to the absence of state capacity or political will to exercise control. From Benin-Gwari Forest in Kaduna to Rugu Forest in Katsina and Zafe in Zamfara, these forests are now referred to as ungoverned.
Erena is in Niger, Shiroro. From there you cross over to Folware.
What security measures have we put in place for farmers and the indigents that are easy prey to these bandits?
Well, I have explained to you that Kaduna is very vast. The state is so huge. We had over 46,000 square kilometers. And I have also explained to you that we are having this problem mostly in locations that are remote. You know, boundaries with Niger State, boundaries with Zamfara, boundaries with Katsina State. You know, the locations are very remote. Even if there's a distress call, before you get there, it takes you time because of the terrain. mobility problem. But the Air Force is complementing the ground troops and the police as well. Once we receive a distress call from a location that is very far, what we do, the Air Force move while the ground troops and the police form a blocking force, and it is really yielding positive mark. We don't have enough boots on the ground. There's a need for us to scale up recruitment. There's a need for security operatives or our security agencies to outnumber the criminals. We are not relenting, we are working, and we are making progress. In the first quarter of 2021, we were able to neutralize 64 bandits.
Our schools, just like our roads, have become hotspots of violence. Across northwestern Nigeria, from Zamfara to Kebbi, Kaduna and Niger, about 1,000 students of primary schools, secondary schools and even universities have been kidnapped since December 2020. Most have been released after payment of ransom, while scores are still being held in forest camps. Some of these students have died in captivity and some killed during the abductions. Earlier this year, after the kidnapping of students at Government Science College, Kagara, Niger State, I asked the governor, Malam Abubakar Sani Bello, if a state could guarantee the safety of school children.
No one can guarantee that unless we have the numbers, the manpower of security personnel required. The Niger State, for example, during the military administrations, Niger State had 14,000 policemen. Today we have 4,000. Same Rafi local government where this kidnapping took place, Kagara town itself has less than 10 policemen. So how will it work? How? What magic could you do? We don't employ or employ policemen. I understand in the past, the state police command had the powers to employ policemen from the state, but it is no longer like that. And that's probably the reason why we're having problems.
That was back in March. Not much has changed since. Many have said that the present centralized structure of the Nigerian police is too detached from local communities. A vote conducted by NOI polls indicates that many Nigerians are in favor of state policing to bring security closer to the people. Experts say there is a need to reflect on the current security approach across the country.
The various institutions need to sit back and reflect that the current approaches that we are deploying to address security concerns, are they adequately addressing these issues? What are the intelligence mechanisms that you need to put in place to really get information on how crime is happening across various communities? So I think critically it is the model, it is the approach that seems to be a bit defective. We are practically waiting for violence to happen before we then react. We talk about community policing, especially for the police especially. I keep making reference to the police because they have the mandate when it comes to internal security. Community policing is very important. Then intelligence-led policing. We are not emphasizing that so much. Intelligence-led policing is that strategy through which you just want to get intelligence of what is happening in a certain community.
In the southeast, insecurity takes a different dimension. According to authorities, agitators for the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, a separatist group campaigning for Biafra independence, have been responsible for a spate of attacks on security forces and innocent people since December 2020. Olu, a local government in Imo State, has become a flashpoint of trouble in the region. On the 25th of January 2021, many Hausa-speaking traders in a market in Olu
were going about their business when gunmen invaded the area, killing some and setting shops ablaze.
It is very, very unfortunate that this kind of thing would happen in 21st century Olu, 21st century Imo, 21st century Nigeria. People are not happy with the things, with the way this country is being run. When you talk about security, there is no security in Nigeria anymore.
We are here at the Islamic Central Mosque, Amafeke, and this is the third Friday without holding a Jumat service here because of insecurity issues. There is a lot of apprehension amongst the Muslim community.
This is my third year living in Olu, and I have never had any ugly experience living here until recently. During the NSAS protest, they burnt our mosque and killed some of our members in some part of Olu town. For 3 weeks now, we have been unable to observe our Jumat prayers in this mosque. We now live in fear. More worrisome is the absence of security operatives in the town. Despite all these incidents, the governor has not visited us to assure us or condole with us.
Since the January attack, Olu has had no peace. The people are in constant fear as these gunmen, time after time, unleash violence, destroy shops, kill, and even behead people in the community. In the southeast and south-south regions at large, dozens of security officials have been killed. Biafra agitation and the violence going on in the southeast have been said to be an untoward way of expressing dissatisfaction about leadership failure on the part of all tiers of government.
Well, I feel that there are many voices in the conversation to deal with the disaffection that people have about the Nigerian state. There are many voices, and evidently his is just one of those voices. But that may not be the optimal route to go. There are so many benefits of a functional, democratic, sound constitutional state. But where there are imperfections, you will now begin to see the voice that Nnamdi Kanu echoes or propagates. War is terrible. Sometimes you think about it from a more glamorous point of view, but it's bloody, it's heinous, it's damaging, it destroys families, societies, and so on and so forth. So my preoccupation is for peace. Okay, peace arrived through legitimate constitutional routes. That is what is most paramount. No society can develop without peace. And in terms of the disaffection of those of us who are from the southeast goes, there's a need to hear us and to look at our grievances and to consider them on their merits.
The southeast substantially mirroring Boko Haram. We have not been able to understand and deal with the issue of IPOB. The Igbo leadership allowed IPOB and ESN too much ground to take too much ground to control what is going on in the southeast. So they misread the threat of organizations like IPOB. There was opportunism, crass opportunism. People thought maybe this IPOB will do for us what we want. They will get for the Igbo what the Igbo didn't get through the political process. And eventually now we are creating a monster. And it's a monster that is eating up the local environment. The same way Boko Haram ate up Borno and Yobe and parts of Adamawa. IPOB and ESN are eating up the southeast. The federal government is throwing the military at them, the same way they threw the military at Boko Haram, rather than trying to understand the real issue. What is behind IPOB? Who supports them? Why do they support them? What is the issue that has made IPOB attractive to a large number of young people? Can you do something about it? Is it something you need to do about it?
I would say that the Southeast governments can do a whole lot better. The state governments, they can do a whole lot better in delivering services to the various constituent parts of the Southeast. We don't see enough of government in our rural communities, in the local government. We need to raise the bar as per the effectiveness of subnational entities. All right. Once we've gotten to a point where we can say for certainty that the state governments are operating optimally and delivering their own share of the governance dividend, then we can look elsewhere to seek inputs. But state governments in the Southeast need to up their game.
The Nigerian police force, on whose shoulder the responsibility of protecting the nation lies, is unable to perform its basic functions, forcing the Nigerian military to step in.
A society gets the kind of police that it pays for. Over the years, successive administrations have not made the connection around policing and development. So they just see the police as, oh, that is the police, and not critically putting it in a position of primacy, because people need to be safe internally first. You need to take care of the internal enemy before you begin to look at those ones that are threatening you on the outside. So over the years, there's been consistent underfunding, which is very, very critical. You want to undertake police operation, it has to do with funds, it has to do with state-of-the-art technology, equipment, and all of that. And then the manpower, less than 400,000 police personnel currently police a country of over 200 million. So what it means is that there is inadequacy somewhere. The police right now is overstretched. The country is very big and diverse. And then if you look at the scale of insecurity that is happening, it changes rapidly. So what it means is that the security landscape is not constant. You understand? So the police is trying to really grapple with all of this in the midst of very meager resources in terms of training, in terms of equipment, in terms of manpower, and every other thing. Government's approach in trying to address some of these inadequacies by the police has been to set up committees, police reform committees. But the question again is that each of these successive government that comes in set up a committee, do they make reference to the last committee to say, okay, what did my predecessor, found when he talk about policing challenges? How can I build upon that and actually implement this to make the police effective? But no, our approach has been that, okay, I get into office and then I'm setting up my own committee.
Though the carnage isn't over yet, in more recent times, the joint military effort of the Nigerian Army and the Nigerian Air Force has recorded more success in combating terrorists and criminals.
In the last few months, the synergy and jointness among the three services has been cordial and overwhelming, which has resulted in the decimation of most of the criminal elements we have in this country.
While Nigeria may or may not reform its police soon, critics say the new conception of security now places emphasis on human and non-military variables, saying even the best of soldiers and policemen may be unable to maintain security in a country with a whopping 33% unemployment rate. Nigeria cannot solve its insecurity problems in isolation of other developmental issues. Where we go from here depends on our ability as a people, a government, and a nation to make the urgent steps needed to pull our country, Nigeria, from the brink.
How can we have peace without justice?
Plus Politics. It's not just another political conversation, it's about keeping you in the know. The relevant interviews, asking the tough questions to those that matter. Get the answers you need Does it mean that the people who were injured, people who were shot at, those who were involved in that stampede are not going to get justice?
It is unfortunate, it is sad that we have a government of deaf and dumb.
Analysis from top experts.
The last election was not really an election.
We feel that Obasanjo has a very special place in his heart for hating Ijaw people.
I think it really boils down to two things. One, trust and accountability.
Plus Politics, every weeknight at 7 p.m. on Plus TV Africa.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them. If you no talk, they go beat you. Now 2,500 they pay.
The Security and Exchange Commission (SEC) released its long-awaited digital asset regulation that is meant to guide how digital assets such as cryptocurrencies are regulated in the country. Now, the new rules for digital assets are part of its effort to regulate the digital virtual assets such as bitcoins and NFTs. This document titled New Rules on Issuance, Offering Platforms and Custody of Digital Assets cover regulation on 5 major items ranging from issuance of digital assets to rules that govern digital asset exchanges in the country. Expectedly, the regulations have drawn several positive and negative remarks from cryptocurrency enthusiasts across the country and outside Nigeria. We will be looking at these regulations on the show today. Welcome to Business Insights and Plus TV Africa. I am Justin Akadonye. Now, just before we get into the discussion of the day, here is a highlight of the major stories that made headlines in Business Nigeria this week. Take a look.
The federal government has said it is targeting local refining of over 2.555 billion barrels of crude oil worth over 120 trillion naira in the next 5 years. A combined refining capacity of more than 1.4 million barrels per day is expected from the rehabilitation of the existing 4 national refineries, co-location of new refineries, construction of greenfield refineries, and construction of modular refineries as part of the Ministry of Petroleum Resources refining roadmap in the next 5 years. The refining of 1.4 million barrels per day is approximately 2.555 billion barrels in 5 years. At least 51.3 million unique telecommunication devices may not have national identification numbers. According to the Nigeria Communications Commission's document titled Deployment of a Device Management System, Project Information Memorandum, Nigeria had about 132 million unique devices connected to telecommunication networks in 2020. It said with more than 200 million active lines on the Nigerian telecommunication network, there is great potential for the development of a DMS in the Nigerian market. The Nigeria Identity Management Commission enrollment dashboard for April 2022 showed 80.7 million people had NINs as of April 23, 2022. This leaves 51.3 million device owners without NINs. Experts and entrepreneurs in the digital space have called for a critical review of Nigeria's digital economic regulations to meet up with other progressive economies. The professionals who spoke at the 2022 Legal Business Conference in Lagos said these digital sectors included blockchain, crypto, and fintech innovation. According to a statement, the professionals in the fintech and blockchain subsector of the financial industry said Nigeria was losing billions of naira owing to its inability to explore and maximize myriads of opportunities inherent in the digital world like other economies. African Economic Outlook 2022, released by the African Development Bank, has projected the average growth of Nigeria's economy this year through to 2023 at 3.2%. The report, which was released at the ongoing annual general meeting of the bank in Accra, Ghana, focuses on the growth prospects of the continent in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic, climate change adaptation, energy transition, and other structural challenges. The report unveiled by the president of the bank, Dr. Akiwumi Adesina, his team and board of governors examines the economic outlook at regional level and country-by-country basis. AFDB's projection is slightly higher than the 3.11% growth rate of Q1 as released by the National Bureau of Statistics.
Welcome back. Those are the stories that made headlines. Reactions are already trailing the new regulations by SEC. Some experts have said although the guidelines were a welcome development for the country, the ingredients of the regulation did not favor the local market. Joining us now to share his perspective on the development is certified blockchain architect Rume Dominic. Rume, thanks for joining us on Business Insight and Plus TV Africa.
Thank you very much. I'm very grateful.
All right, let's dive into it, Rume. Let's just start by asking your reactions concerning these new sets of regulation. How does it really hit you?
Okay, interestingly, it's one that is actually a welcome idea. It is a very good thing, actually. It is good that we have clarity forward, especially with digital assets in Nigeria. You see, when investors want clarity, when they want to get into any market, when they want to invest a lot of money, a lot of billions into every market, and they want to see profit, they want to be able to weigh their risks to reward ratio in order to ensure that they are extremely profitable on the long run. So while we see some of these particular complaints around the recent SEC regulation that was released, I find it as very interesting, and it is one that will actually pave a good way for the development of cryptocurrency assets. Because, I mean, we have seen good players come in from outside this particular country that would also have a lot of money to be able to invest. But one place that I find it very troubling is that the SEC, in most of their provisions, especially for this particular regulation, they were actually on the side of taking from most of the cryptocurrency pioneers, and they are not really giving back to.
All right,
we'll discuss much more about that.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that. They taking from the players and not really investing. We'll take it one step at a time. But let's talk about some other issues people have commented on. Specifically, the Securities and Exchange Commission is actually classifying this particular asset as securities, as it were, and. It's a peer-to-peer network, if you ask me, the Bitcoin and all that, and it's very hard to regulate. Don't you think that in itself is an issue?
So that is actually not meant to be our first major focus. Our first major focus should be this particular technology that just hits the ground. when we look at it in terms of finance, okay, it is just an enabler of finance in the sense that it is currency that is used in the digital world to actually enable finance. So we should first be focused on not the peer-to-peer nature, or how safe it can be because of these particular regulations that came on board. Let's take, for example, some of the major requirements stated that we needed about 100,000 naira first of all for like an application fee. Then you needed about 200,000 naira to be able to get the processing going on. Then you also need about 30 million naira to also get some registration, and then you also need about 500 million naira for what? For capital, which you would need to put on ground before you are able to even exchange digital assets, just like you said now, especially with Bitcoin peer-to-peer. So after you've brought forward all these requirements, you still need to now go and fulfill this particular legal requirement before you be able to exchange Bitcoin. If you put it in the peer-to-peer manner, everybody that has fulfilled this part. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We lost you at some point. Please go ahead with your thoughts.
Okay, so I was saying that we should look critically at the security aspect of it, in the sense that we looked at it, and then we needed about, from the requirements that we were given, we needed about 100,000 naira for you to first of all register. You needed about 300,000 naira for you to even put forward that particular application. Then you needed about 30 million, which is about almost $50,000, to be able to quickly get that particular registration process going on. And then you need a capital requirement of about 500 million naira. And then you also need an upfront capital of about $8,600. When you put all of this together, it ensures that if somebody goes into this particular space and does not fulfill what he or she is promising to the Nigerian investors, to the Nigerian populace, all of these particular assets that we have made mention of in the past would be at risk. So it makes people to be able to live up to a certain level of integrity, especially with the deliverables that the Nigerian populace will be expecting, the trustworthiness that the Nigerian populace will be expecting from the investment that they are making into this particular digital space. So we should not focus on the anonymous nature of it first. We should focus on the security that it is providing to the Nigerian populace through this particular regulation. That is what I think.
All right, Rume, fine. You've talked about the cumbersomeness of the financial outlay and requirement for digital assets offering platforms, that's the DAOPs. But some people have also said that it's as though the Securities and Exchange Commission and the CBN are actually working at cross purposes over this regulation. Do you agree?
Well, I would not say that conclusion is far-fetched. Regardless, let's also note that this is not a letter or a circular from the CBN that negates their February 2021 circular to the banks that ban cryptocurrency. This is actually a circular from the SEC saying that, well, you want to do cryptocurrency in Nigeria, you want to be able to get into this space, you want to do big business here. You guys can, if you can, this particular requirement, then you are free to be able to come into our legal system and you are legally recognized. Meanwhile, I think what will happen is after this particular phase has passed, then the CBN would now come out and start lifting some of those bans that they've placed on cryptocurrencies before now. But that is not really to say that because of this particular circular for the regulation that is out, CBN has actually withdrawn that particular statement or that particular circular that was given out to the banks. It is just a way to be able to now say, okay, people that are interested, since Nigeria is one of the biggest markets, we are welcoming that particular engagement. Like you know that Nigeria was part of the people that went for this last El Salvador's Bitcoin conference. And considering the fact that Nigeria also has the CBDC, which is the e-Naira, attached to their portfolio, it is good that Nigeria is actually taking a very strong standpoint to regulate this. And I think the CBN should start taking a little bit of lesson from this now. But what I want them to do is to do something that is also stretching to the community. Before they take many of these particular conclusions, they should try to reach a lot of the communities so that they would be able to play this particular regulation in a way that it will not stifle innovation. It will be beneficial to both the small players and the big players.
I was going to ask you that. Rome, because a lot of people actually said before this or after this new set of rules were brought out by the Securities and Exchange Commission, it was a general thing that the active players or the key players were not carried along. There was no town hall meeting or stakeholders meeting to bring about all of the input, as though they just brought the hammer on players. Do you agree?
Yes, I actually do agree, because when you take a statistical outlook at the industry right now, you see that the majority of the players, especially in the Nigerian market, they are young people within the age of about 20 to 30 years old. And let's be factual, one of the major problems of entrepreneurs in Nigeria is access to capital. And that's one of the problems that blockchain actually solves, because it helps them to be able to raise funds through processes like crowdfunding. But then access to capital, when you might not have lasted in the space for so long a time, maybe like 4 or 5 years, you might not have access to those much capital that we just called. So you see that the average 25 years old boy, which is already a big player, a medium player in this particular space, might not really be able to fulfill all of those requirements. Now, it is like this. You then shut that particular man's business down because of this particular SEC regulation. And then you have foreign investors that have seen the opportunity. They come into the country and they have the money because they are actually coming with enough dollars, and then they're able to pay the Security Exchange Commission, and they're able to monopolize this particular market. Meanwhile, there is also no provision in all of this regulation saying that, okay, since some of these local players or these young individuals might not be able to meet up, these young individuals, when these big companies come with their money now, would they partner with some of these local companies? Would they be able to say, okay, let them invest 20% of the funds back into development of this local company, so that with time, after like 2 years, these particular local players that do not have money now, they will start investing into the big leagues and start playing in the big leagues? Or I think they should have also done it like this. They should have also looked at a way of saying, okay, for some of the high, maybe if you do so and so value of transaction, because they focus so much on the exchanges. If you do so and so volume of transaction, then you can pay so and so amount, maybe about 15 million or about 10 million. Then if you are playing in so and so capacity, or they make it like a tier, they give it a tier type of structure, so that a lot of people, it can be accommodating for a lot of young players, so that we will not see the innovation die and a lot of youth just go hungry at a time where a lot of recession to come out from.
Okay, so speaking of which, all of these challenges that you've talked and big companies trying to take over, when ordinarily it is the young people who are really involved in this digital economy in Nigeria. So don't you think it's high time these players, be they active or just passive ones, don't you think it's high time that you guys came together and maybe forged some sort of a common front, or maybe like an identity, so that your voices can be heard amply?
Yes, I strongly agree with you that it's high time we come together and form a very strong group and movement that will make our voice heard very well. And coming to that particular aspect, that's why we have one of the strongest body in Nigeria, CBAN, Stakeholders of the Blockchain Association of Nigeria, which I am an executive of. And if you notice, about 3 weeks ago, we published a circular on one of the national dailies, especially relating to this digital asset and some of the challenges around it. So we have started gathering up our might to see that we get one single voice as an organization, as CBAN. So we do that with the platform of CBAN, which is the Stakeholders of the Blockchain Association of Nigeria, so that we can forward petitions and we are also able to regulate it. The major problem I see here is actually the unwillingness of the government bodies to work with people that are far much more experienced than them. You see, in other developed countries, they set up panels, they set up boardrooms for experts that know about all of these things. They even pay for them to come and teach them these things and then guide them through. We are doing this, a lot of us are trying to do these things in Nigeria, especially in the governmental level, with trial and error, or they are just trying to copy things that are not realistic or that is not even related, is not practically applicable to their geographical region. So I think that is where the major problem is coming from. They should try to see how they can work with much more experts and then see how they can also tailor their regulations, especially relating to their geographical location, their markets, and how Nigeria can actually really scale with this particular innovation.
Well, Ruben, it's good you've talked about some of these challenges, and I just want us to look at some preferable solutions to all of this. You talked about the exchange focusing on it as more of a security than all the other issues. You also talked about identifying the original players and working with them in as much as they might not really understand them, how it relates to this particular geographical location. So what else can the maybe regulators and of course players do in the immediacy, in the short term, to ensure that all of these bottlenecks are, stemmed?
Okay. They say you can never beat the place of experience in a man's life. One of the ways a lot of us started getting very interested in this, that we started experiencing the currency, we started experiencing the technology itself, and we started developing use case and business solutions that are currently still viable and have a lot of solutions that are still offering to the public. So the first place the people should come from is to start from a knowledge point, which is the place of acquiring skills. That's why at VOREM, we have an academy, VOREM Academy, where we teach all of the blockchain skills. We have about 20 blockchain courses where we dispense all of those things in about 107 different modules, which focuses on the security, the regulatory parts of cryptocurrency, the distributed ledger, the business use case, how it applies to different technologies, different geographical locations, the new metaverse, the NFTs, how to be able to use them to access decentralized autonomous organizations, how to be able to use them for governance and voting. So this is actually one of the pathway that is required for a better regulatory and implementation process. When we have that and we're coming from a knowledge point and we're able to tackle this with enough experience, then that particular challenge will no longer be an issue.
All right, we must say a very big thank you to you, Rume Dominic, for all of these insights that you have shared. We look forward to seeing you again in future as this developments unfold in our digital economy. Thank you so much, Rume.
All right, no problem. Thank you.
Yes, it is indeed a pleasure. Rume Dominic is a certified blockchain architect. Staying with the financial sector, the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, CIBN, says it will continue playing its role as a bridge to engender positive collaborations between all players in fintech for the good of the industry. Ken Okpara said this during his investiture at the 22nd President and Chairman in Council of the CIBN, which held in Lagos. I'll leave you with details of that, and I'll see you again next time. I am Justin Akadonye. Many thanks for watching.
Having said that,
gathered at this hall are banking professionals who have converged to celebrate the men who will control the hems of affairs of the Bankers Institute for the next 2 years. Though they are in a celebratory mood, musings about the industry, which has witnessed relative stability in recent times amid economic headwinds, resound.
I shall abide by.
After his investiture, the new CIBN boss, Ken Okpara, says the future of banking, which revolves around the Generation Z, is a focal strategic goal for his administration, hence the need to encourage fintech. His predecessor, Bayo Olugbemi, shares similar thoughts.
The future is here. It means that we need to begin to build up inclusion, have the Gen Z, the younger people, who definitely will take over from us to be inspired to do the business of banking.
We have seen that there are a lot of channels of delivery and services, and technology is the main thing now. If you don't embrace technology in banking, you fail. So that's why I encourage banks. We're doing a lot of financial technologies, but we should do much more than what we are doing now.
The competition for traditional banks 7 years from fellow banks and peers to small but mighty adventure-seeking entities called fintechs. As the conversation shifts towards payment system and the CBN's e-Naira, the bank executives share their thoughts on the future and viability. Meanwhile, in an address, the Lagos State government promises to continue to make the state conducive for business to thrive.
In terms of payment system, you discover that the banks have done so much in accelerating the payment system. It's one of the countries in this, in this world where you can do online service and get instant payment. It does even in US. If you do payment, it doesn't happen instantly. And that's essentially is a credit to the banking system.
I think our people, Nigeria in particular, we prefer cash. But little by little, I think the tenets or the policy of e-Naira we go down.
Show you all that we are working tirelessly to further strengthen the economy and the financial sector in Lagos to make life better for all Lagosians.
In line with re-engineering the sector, the CIBN promises to develop a digital roadmap for the banking and finance industry and offer certifications on digital skills.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the Babin, I pay my rent. On the Babin, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
My name is David Oladimeji Olukemi-Mako, a son of Awa Ijebu, Ogun State. Here is my good old days story. I was born in Ibadan at St. Mary's Catholic Hospital, Oluyoro, Okiofa, to the family of Abraham Olukoya, Adeyinka Mako, and my mother, Olabisi, the only child of her mother, was from Iba Imobi in the Ijebu Waterside area of Ogun State. I was raised by maternal grandmother, Madam Odilia Taiwo, Mami Ekotado. I was a gifted fisherman even before I turned 10 years old. I left the village of Itasin for Ibadan, and I got enrolled at St. Saviour's African Church School, Ekotado, Ibadan. Ibadan then became my world, where table tennis took all my attention in those growing old days. Traversing the various playing locations like Agbokojo, Racecourse Ibadan, and Liberty Stadium in search of fame and fortune. And as a young boy, I was very rascally and had my fair share of youthful exuberances. Ibadan Grammar School offered me opportunity for both education and sports. The school tempered my deviance, and the boarding house provided me enough activities to refocus for the future. Sincerely, for me then, no real role models beyond peer group influence. I had friends who were very studious. I tagged along and I was better for it. Oliver Baptist High School, Oyo, and University of Ibadan provided enough experiences that shaped my life and contributed largely to my modest accomplishments in life. Of course, Lagos State welcomed me after my National Youth Service year, and since then, there was no looking back. I must admit that Lagos remains a land of opportunities and a great state for those who dream and labor. As I take a look back and mirror into the past, I saw exciting and memorable moments. Moments where the economy seems to be working. Moments where security was not a major issue on the front burner. Moments where communal spirits were high and trust issues were no challenges. So I wondered, where did we get it wrong? Will our children believe us when we say we had so much fun in those days? I appreciate how far this country has come from a population of 45 million in 1960 to 200 million plus today. Within the same land space, we need to now begin to be positive in our response to Nigeria. Our challenge now is to focus on how we can change the narrative. How instead of talking about good old days, be projecting into a future that is greater than our past. I am an accomplice and partner in this drive and desire to make our tomorrow better than our today. Shemore, I'm with you all the way in this journey. God bless our nation. God bless Nigeria.
My name is Oluwatosin Olale, and our business is called Pathway Giants Limited. At Pathway Giants Limited, we provide packaging solutions for small businesses in Nigeria. Our focus is on small businesses. We help small businesses to take their products from local to global, because we know that we have a lot of products being produced, especially now that everybody's brother and sister is into business. So we know a lot of people are producers, but we still have to, they still are limited in markets to the Nigerian market. And with the ACTFA agreements and the government trying to encourage businesses to take their business global, to export their products, our Nigerian products are not so easily acceptable in other climes because our packaging is poor. So that's what we are here today. We are here to fill in the gap, to help provide workable packaging solutions with smaller minimum order quantities and help them package their products in a way that will delight their customers. My background is in banking. I started banking in 2006, thereabouts, and I worked in about 3 banks. So my journey started when I was moved in 2012 to marketing. And because I was moved to marketing, I was handling businesses, and I had to, I had a close relationship with business owners. And that was how I began to understand the kind of businesses, the way businesses are run, basically, and also what kind of problems they have. And that was how I jumped into this. So from leaving banking, the only thing I had to do was set up a packaging company and be able to provide solutions to what I thought was a problem in Nigeria. I'm a late bloomer when it comes to knowing what I want to do with my life, and that's why a lot of people know from the very beginning. But for a very long time, I just knew I wanted to work in an office. But as at that time, something started shifting in me, because the more I saw people running their business and, fulfilling their destiny, so to speak, it felt like something was missing for me. And at some point, I met someone that makes nylon. That's all she does. And she used to make what we call toromagbe. That's the small black nylon that when you go somewhere, you buy something, they put it in. That was what she used to make. And that's started sealing it in for me that, okay, this is what I want to do. But I don't want to do it the same way she's doing it. I want to be able to provide a service that everybody needs. Because we all know that the toromagbe nylon is something that is more of a menace in society. But how can I take this, what I love, and bring it into what is a problem in the society? And that was what bettered the packaging industry. So we have evolved over time from just providing shopping bags into providing solutions that businesses need. My training was more or less informal because there is no particular school that teaches packaging, but I had to choose mentors, and most of my mentors were not even in the same industry I work in. So I had to like marry the kind of information I was getting along with regular business trainings into what I have today. I'm a UWIN 3 awardee. The government of Goodluck Jonathan awarded some entrepreneurs grants back then, and I was one of the sets for the third one. I got 10 million naira, and that was the first funding we used for this business. After that, I put in for the Tony Elumelu entrepreneurship program, and I won $5,000. So that has helped, and so many other grants along the way that I've put in for. And then of course, a lot came in from our savings. And then when I started this business, my husband was still working. So we had to take out a couple of loans here and there. And then of course, whatever he was able to take out of what he was earning, that's what we used. Challenges, there are many. Where do I start from? So we have the number one challenge is power. That's the number one challenge. This is a very power intensive business. So if I was to put on my generator for this system, I will have to use a 100 kVA generator. That's having to spend an average of 50,000 naira for fuel daily. So power is a major challenge. When I want to start my machines, I need to warm them up for like an hour before I start at all. So even if I was using a generator, that's like money down the drain. So we need to have sustainable power to be able to run this business. That's number one. Number two is staffing. We would use a lot of blue-collar workers. So they didn't go to school to learn this, they learned it as a trade. You understand? So there is no school in which you go to and say, okay, this is how to run an extruder. We don't have such schools in Nigeria. So they kind of like have they go in under someone, learn it, and then they go out to go and learn. So you can't really place how much information or how much they have learned, except when you put them to test. So sometimes you employ someone and you realize that they don't know as much as they claim they do, or maybe they are making a lot of mistakes. You have to either train them and like I said, there is no formal training system. So you have to either train them or maybe bring in someone that has more experience over them. And then because, like I said, they are blue-collar workers, there is a lot of other issues that spring up as a result of them working with you, because some are not teachable, some come in with their own preconception of how things should be run, and they don't want to change that. So you have to like have a lot of hit and miss before you have your perfect fit. Raw materials. The raw materials industry is dominated by foreigners. So we have Lebanese, we have Indians, and we don't seem to have been able as Nigerians to get into that business effectively. So Nigerians work the recycled raw material aspects. But even when you go outside the country, into China, Dubai, anywhere where all these things are shipped from, and you try to get in there and say, I want to ship, they tell you, no, go to this person that is probably Lebanese, that is working in Nigeria. So one way or the other, they kind of dominate the space. And by dominating the space, they dominate the price. They also own factories. So they kind of control things. They control the pricing of what we sell. They can flood the markets at any time with their own products. Meanwhile, they are the ones still selling raw materials to us at a higher price. So we need a space in which Nigerians are also playing in this space, so that it's more, you have more competition, more healthy competition in that space. First of all, I would say that paper bags are from trees. So if you're using paper bags, you are causing deforestation. And that means you're not helping the environment either. So there is this misconception that, okay, if you use plastic bags, that means you are not helping the environment. That's far from true. The problem we have with everything is that we don't reuse, we don't reduce what we use, we don't reuse, and we don't recycle. The moment we can do these three things, whether for paper bags or for plastic bags or for plastic bottles, then the world will be a better place. The person that started the plastic bags, that invented it because he didn't want them to kill off all the trees to make paper bags. So he invented a plastic bag that could be reusable. The problem started when we started using them as single use. Now, my own industry, like I showed you earlier, we have most of the raw materials we use, especially for our garbage bags and other non-food grade products, are raw materials from recycled products. So the problem in Lagos, I would say Lagos because I don't want to use Nigeria as a whole, is being able to access this waste, because most of it goes to the dumps. And when it goes to the dump, I can't use it anymore because a lot of other chemicals have infused into it. Can we have a place where we can take this raw material, this waste from source? If we can take it from source, then we can recycle and reuse them into bags that we can still use. So for me, I would believe that if we can have a government that would look into resolving the problem and not just taking out, stop banning plastic products. Because I'll put it to you that a paper bag is what, if you're going to buy a paper bag for a particular nylon bag size, then you're going to be paying like 4, 5, 6 times the price you would have paid for the nylon bag. And the nylon bag is more reusable than the paper bag. I'm in the paper bag space too. So I wouldn't want my business to go down, but it's supposed to be a case of education, one, and then having the proper systems in place to collect and separate waste. If we can collect and separate waste from mushy markets, where a lot of nylons and a lot of plastic bottles are being thrown away and thrown into our sewage system, then people like me, we are happier because that means my raw materials are cheaper. It's the advice I give myself every day. Sometimes I ask myself, well, what am I doing here? Why am I here? Especially when, the electricity company rears its ugly head and we have power outages or they are simply messing up our plans. I'll tell you, just hang in there. We believe in Nigeria, right? We believe that Nigeria can get better. And I'll consider myself a youth in this case. We, the youths, are the ones that can make it better. So if we all pack up and go, what will happen tomorrow? Will there be no Nigeria? Because we can go there and we can make it happen. It's harder here, yes. You have to strive more, you have to work at it more, but it's still doable. We still have businesses that are selling we still have companies that are selling their businesses for thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if they can hang in there, then we can hang in there. And then we can, leverage on one another. Let's collaborate. Instead of looking at each other as competitors, let's look at each other as collaborators. For example, if anybody wanted to go into this industry, because it's so power and capital intensive, I tell them, why don't you let me produce for you? I'll produce for you at a cheaper rate. You can go on and market. So if we can do that, like if you have a business, another business I'm so passionate and interested in is the food business, because we have a lot of waste and we have some companies that they process these products and they package. So why are you in your little corners trying to, pack it in nylon? And people are telling you your packaging is not nice and you're wondering what else can you do? Why not go to this kind of person? She already has, our place is already NAFDAC approved. Every other approval is in place. Go there with your raw material, go there with your packaging. They package for you and you are home free. So why do we all have to go into the nitty-gritty parts of each business? You can leverage on each other's spaces and, sell. The selling, the market is where the problem is. Anybody can do anything, but if you can have your market, then you don't even have to have the product. Get someone that has the product. Push. That's the advice I have for people. So it has been a long journey because you have to earn the trust of your customers. But we started small. Even though we had the factory and everything, we had to start small. We had to have a product, so to speak. And it's hard when you're selling packaging because when you're selling packaging, they think customers think you're selling the product in it. So if I give you like I'm going to show you something from Jam Coconuts. So if I'm showing it to you, I'm trying to show you the package, but you can see the product in it. So it's a hard sell. But over time, we've been able to leverage on references. You know, if I produce for you, you refer me to someone. And then also we have a very vibrant social media plan. So we put whatever we do on social media and people from there, and then we, of course, we do social media marketing. And from there, we've been having a lot of hits. A lot of customers are asking what we do. Then another fundamental way we've been able to gain customers is that most of people in this space, when you want to package your product, they'll tell you, oh, come and do 100,000 pieces, 200,000 pieces, and then we can package your product for you. But I tell you, come and do 10,000 pieces. And even as we speak, we are looking at how we can work on reducing that to 1,000 pieces. So that means that we are a low entry barrier kind of, we are opening up a low entry barrier kind of market for people that are willing to go into entrepreneurship, because most people don't even, they don't know if they will have that market yet. And you're telling them, I was talking to a customer recently and she was showing me what she did like 3 years ago. She did like 200,000 pieces. She hadn't used up to 1/4 of it. And now she wants to change her packaging. So all that is a waste. So we are trying to create a niche for those people that, okay, we want to test the market. We have 3-4 products. Which one will move? If I do 100,000 pieces of each product and then one is not moving, does that mean I've wasted my money? So what we are trying to do is, okay, come and do 1,000 pieces. Of course, it will be more expensive than if we were doing 100,000, but it's still at a price you can go to market with. So by the time you do that, you try the market. Oh, I have 5 products, but I think I'll go to market with 3 products. Then we can do 10,000 pieces for you. Then when you grow to the extent where you can do 100,000 pieces, then we can take it to 100,000 pieces. And each time your price drops.
According to a research paper, in several developing countries, there is an informal waste management system. Plastic pollution is currently a serious problem in developing countries, with many people in these countries relying on plastic sachets of water in the absence of affordable and readily available drinking water. The mismanagement of waste, particularly plastic, in these countries through dumping or burning not only has a negative environmental impact, it also has a seriously detrimental effect on public health, with one person dying every 30 seconds as a consequence of poor waste management. According to Bioenergy Consult, in Nigeria, the management of waste is a matter of national concern, as current data shows that the country generates more than 32 million tons of solid waste annually, one of the highest amounts in Africa. Over 15% of the municipal solid wastes generated are from plastics and nylons. The volume of waste does not actually constitute the problem, but the inability of government, individuals, and waste disposal firms to keep up with the task of managing waste and the environment. The problem emanates from the country's poor culture of recycling waste. The Global Journal of Research and Review states that at every hour of the day, waste materials are indiscriminately disposed in Nigeria. The effects are seen in the quality of air, blockage of drainages, destruction of land, and poor health of inhabitants of polluted areas. Thus, green recycling of waste nylon is a veritable tool that should be encouraged in the country. It can promote both social and environmental development. It helps to protect the environment, enhance a cleaner environment, create jobs, generate revenue, brings about poverty eradication programs, reduce municipal solid waste, save costs and energy, among others. It is time we take the recycling of waste very seriously in the country, because according to Nairametrics, today, the recycling industry is estimated to be worth several billions of naira, but this is nothing compared to the revenues it has the potential to generate should the right investments be made. Small and medium enterprise, green entrepreneurs, and individuals that are passionate about the environment should tap into this emerging business opportunity. The business process involves collection, separation, and reduction of waste nylon and plastic bottles, and then remanufacturing it into either same product or entirely new products. Items that can be made from recycled waste nylon and plastic bottles include shopping bags, nylons, waste disposable bags, nylon sachets, among many others.
My name is Adewale Olaleye. and I'm in charge of strategy and operation in Pathway Giants. I'm actually responsible for strategy direction for the organization, and I manage the entire production from sourcing of the materials down to producing the materials and delivering for customers and ensuring the customers are satisfied with what was delivered. I looked at it as, because I actually worked in a corporate organization for a couple of years, about 15, 16 years. So I've worked with a lot of people. So working with my wife too, I just assumed that is one of my colleagues that I've worked with, because I've been moved from one role to another role, and you have to adapt to the people you meet with. So I just assumed that she's my colleague. Even when I'm in the office, I call her partner. When I'm talking to customers, I don't even want people to see that we're kind of my spouse. So I call her my MD or my colleague in the office. So that's the way I see it. So it's not really different from when I was in the 8 to 5 kind of work, and I see a lot of people I work with. It got to a point when it just started, I was very enthusiastic about it. But it got to a point I was like, wow, are we doing the right thing? Because money just going down the drain. You know, if I need to cite an example, before I used to enjoy my money before we started the business. You know, I'm very comfortable, things were going on with my money, but when we started the business, I discovered that I can't just spend money anyhow. I can't just spend. You know, I have to be looking at, these people might need money now, so they might need to pay NEPA bills immediately, they might need to pay salaries, and no money is coming in, you know, and it was very frustrating. But I just look at it as, you know, when you give out to a child, you know, a child will start sucking, then before start crawling, you know, taking step one after the other before started walking and running. So I believe that it will get to a point whereby the business will be running as well. So I just have to be a bit patient to see the business go to that level. Fine, I handle strategy. Even when I was doing the 8 to 5, I still look at the book from the back end. I said, okay, how are you guys performing? And I was able to see, okay, we're not doing something right, so okay, why don't you try this? Why don't you use this kind of strategy to see maybe it works better? You know, so we started, we've changed a couple of strategy, but just last year, something started working, so we started pushing it, and towards the Q4 of last year, the company was able to pay all the bills conveniently without sourcing from other source, you know. So from last year, Q4, we've been profitable. The low side, you know, especially when you're looking for raw materials, you have orders and you cannot even get the right raw materials to fulfill the order, is a lot of challenges. And from the strategy point of view, it was it's a very huge market, and you have a lot of big players. You know, when you were doing the interview with the MD, she mentioned the fact that you have the Lebanese who has foreign money, the backing of the government. Government gives them a lot of grants and loans, you know, for them to operate. So they are quite big. So we try to look at, okay, how can we catch a niche? How can we remain competitive? How can we be able to capture some market? Because if you want to play in that red ocean, definitely the big sharks will just eat you up. So we try to look at, okay, how can we differentiate ourselves from the so-called nylon business? You know, that's why we started coming up with what I refer to as a market development strategy, where I was able to identify some markets and create the products from packaging kind of products to meet those markets. And that actually causes the growth to be very slow. But we know we are moving in the right direction, so we kept on growing a bit and bit by bit. And I will categorically say right now that actually we are moving. And I think we are going in the right direction. So that is, to me, is a fun thing for me, because I just look at the entire industry and I'll say, so I can actually differentiate myself, despite the fact that everybody is looking at, this is the kind of business we run. This is kind of like, if I go to other people that's doing this kind of business, they were like, why are you doing this way? I'll say, no, this is what I feel is right. And I've advised a couple of people. Some people get a kind of transaction. They will tell me, this transaction is a lot of money there, I'll say I'm not doing. This is not good. By the time they step into it, at the end of the day, by the time you spend 1, 2, 3 months, they'll discover that, this is not a good transaction. But me, I've been able to see it, from afar. Maybe because of my training. I went to a business school, so I studied business as well. So I was able to, understand how to tweak strategy to fit into what you want. I was talking with the MD late last year, early this year. I said I should have even taken this step for a long time. I think I delayed a lot because I discovered that joining the team, I was able to actually drive that operation, and I was able to drive low cost, reduce our cost of operation very well, and that increased our profitability. So, though it was tough, it was a tough decision because you're going to worlds you don't know what's going to happen. You're getting something paid at the end of 30 days, and now you have to look for how to pay salary, nothing is coming in. But as I am today, I was thinking that I should have even taken a step and moved from the paid employment for a long time. Because I could see that when I added up my own experience as well to the business, then the growth was evident. And we started moving at a faster speed. Anyone that's actually doing it, I wouldn't say that doing a 8 to 5 is not a good idea, because actually you need the experience, you need the network, you need all the that experience. Actually, you need to do your drive business. But I think looking at the fact that I am working on my own, I'm able to put food on people's table. I was able to solve Nigerian unemployment problem. Right now, when we started, we have about 2 staff. Now we are having about 7 staffs, and I'm just recruiting more people now. Maybe in the next 1 month, we might be getting up to 10, 11 staffs. I think that's bringing joy to me to see that I'm actually, putting food on people's table and being a blessing to people. Just beside even making the money, but at least I am giving people happiness. Of course, bringing happiness to people's faces. Path to Giant to be a conglomerate, a group of companies. The roadmap has already been drawn to be a global company, whereby we're going to international business, international trade, and then be a one-stop shop for packaging in Nigeria. Going to our online space, creating a market space for packaging online. So that's my goal. That's my plan for Path to Giant.
Nigeria, by extension, Africa, is faced with a lot of challenges. The growing youth population with little engagement, that is a ticking time bomb. We are a blessed people with diverse culture and highly cerebral minds who have a lot to say. And yes, we are talking. It is important we drive the right conversation that informs, inspires, influences thought and action. If we say there's beauty in our diversity, then let us embrace our diverse culture. We must continue to courageously be the voice of transformation, as we are the hope for the future. Yesterday's conversations shape today. What are you saying to shape your tomorrow? We know you have a lot to say, and we are here to hear you.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
Na 500 naira they collect am. If you no talk, dem go beat you. Na 2,500 they pay.
morning, I am Adibanke Odunui and this is the news update. The All Progressives Congress has postponed its special convention for the presidential primary for the 2023 general elections from May 29th to June 6th. National Publicity Secretary of the APC, Felix Morka, announced this in a statement hours after the Independent National Electoral Commission extended the deadline for parties to conduct their primaries. INEC announced the extension of deadline for political parties to conduct their primaries by 6 days, which is from 4th till 9th of June. Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike said the prosecution of Rotimi Amechi over an alleged 96 billion naira fraud will depend on leaders of the state. He was speaking during a live broadcast at the Supreme Court after the Supreme Court dismissed an appeal filed by Amechi over the probe.
He said the state government has no power to set up. No, the court said no, they have power to set up the judicial power of inquiry. They have. So the money that was collected with Sahara Energy and Toyo Coal, it is for the leaders of the state to say, look, should you go ahead and file charges against Rotimi Amechi and his cohorts, or should you allow it to be? It is for the state. So the state will meet and agree on what next to do. But the point is that let the world know that nobody who will see that report will not be angry. There's nobody. You see, sometimes people come out to the public and claim that their hands are clean.
Meanwhile, Wike had set up a panel to probe Amechi's dealings after he became governor, and the Supreme Court case was an attempt by a former governor to set aside the recommendations of the panel. And yesterday was Children's Day, a day set aside in Nigeria to celebrate the child and highlight issues surrounding their upbringing as well as the promotion of their rights to proper development. On this day, parents have admonished the government to address issues of out-of-school children and children with special needs. Plus TV correspondent Olamide Adeyemi has more.
Nigeria has a high number of out-of-school children, a situation worsened by the ongoing violence and instability in parts of the country. Even though primary education is officially free and compulsory, about 10.5 million of the country's children aged 5 to 14 years are not in school. 27th of May marks the Children's Day, and this year's theme focuses on a better future for every child. A fun fair is organized for children, but it's also a time for parents to speak up about concerns in the education sector of the country.
Their importance cannot be overemphasized. Children are very, very important. They are essential. All child is entitled to education because every child has a right to education, good quality education.
Children's Day, celebrated all over the world because the children are the future. Government cannot do all. We as individuals, we need to also be an advocate for peace, for change, for impacting lives. We should have empathy. You and I, everyone around us, need to touch lives, not waiting for the government to do everything.
Without any doubt, the family plays the most important role in proper child development.
Sometimes on the streets you see kids begging because their parents are sick. So I think that the government needs to change that. But the government needs to do more. They need to take care of children on the streets, children in the hospital. They need to raise awareness. We need to raise awareness.
It's children. We'll celebrate them, they'll give them gifts. I prefer to go to school.
I don't feel like celebrating Children's Day. I'm celebrating, I'm helping my mom to sell food stuff. It should help them to provide parents shelters and take them to the motherless baby home, take them to schools.
On the street are underprivileged children. Some fend for themselves and their families.
I can just try and just study the children. Number one, trying to remove kids from the streets and gather them together.
An appeal to our government to prioritize education and to give education the importance that it deserves.
In the 21st century, children are increasingly susceptible to the influence of technology and modern means of communication. And the sooner they're made aware of society's functions, their role in it, and how they can work to achieve what's expected of them, the better it is for the world at large. Olamide Adeyemi, Plus TV News.
Education remains the veritable means of attaining a greater future. Therefore, we must continue to dream of a better nation. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu handed down this charge at 2022 Children's Day celebration parade and rally organized by the State Ministry of Education at the Police College, Ikeja. Our correspondent Love Ikuku Oyedokun was there and now reports.
This was a traditional march past by students drawn from across Lagos. Children's Day was established by the United Nations to honor and promote the welfare of children. The event celebrated annually offers governments the opportunity to draw attention to issues that affect children. In Lagos State, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu was represented by the Secretary to the State Government, Folashade Jaji. He used the occasion to restate his administration's commitment towards ensuring that children have access to quality education.
Recognize the role education plays in ensuring a better future for our children. As part of our efforts to improve teaching and learning in our primary and secondary schools across the state, we have embarked on and commissioned over 1,449 projects covering 1,036 schools across all 20 local government areas and the 37 LCDAs.
The governor also said that the state would continue to ensure all its educational programs introduced to develop human capacity are sustained. Congratulating the children on the day, Commissioner for Education Folashade Adefisayo said the Governor Sanwo-Olu's administration will continue to work for a better future for children in the state, regardless of any circumstance.
Focus is really on integrating technology into teaching and learning, because this is critical. We cannot have students who are not tech savvy, because that is going to be their life going forward. So again, that's another area of very serious focus. But while we remember that focus, we must also focus on values. We must start to think about the children's focus, their passion, their values, the way they run this country when it comes into their hands. So again, we have to remember to instill time-bound principles and values in all our children.
She thanked teachers, school administrators, and the state government for the commitment, investments, and genuine interest in improving the quality of education in the state. From Lagos, Love Ikuku Oyedoku, Plus TV News.
And on to other parts of Africa. During his inaugural speech, African Union Chairperson and Senegalese President Macky Sall urged his counterpart to tackle the root causes of humanitarian crisis on the continent. The African Union Extraordinary Humanitarian Summit began yesterday in Equatorial Guinea. Around 20 heads of states made the trip to Malabo to attend 2 meetings scheduled through Saturday. The first session, dedicated to the humanitarian crisis, and a pledging conference gathered African leaders, donors, and as well as UN Under-Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs and Emergency Relief Coordinator to raise funds. And outside Africa, protesters holding signs and crosses with photos of victims from the Texas elementary school shooting have protested outside the National Rifle Association's annual convention in Houston as the gun lobby came under pressure after the massacre. Attendance was dampened and speakers and featured musical acts stayed away as about 500 protesters, some shouting NRA go away and shame it could be your kids today, jeered attendees outside the George R. Brown Convention Center. In a pre-recorded video, Republican Governor Greg Abbott said that Texans and Americans grieve and mourn with these families, but that existing gun laws did not stop the Uvalde shooter.
How can you allow a man with a gun into a school in the first place? Where are the metal detectors? Where are the police officers searching these people? Like, what are you guys are doing to make the world better?
It is time for us to break these rituals and to decide what we are going to do different, because if we continue to do the same thing in the same way and expect a different result, that is the very definition of insanity.
We are delivering a strong message to the NRA, a strong message. Our students are dying. We just lost 19 beautiful children and 2 teachers.
And on to business news. The total amount disbursed under the Anchor Borrowers Program of the Central Bank of Nigeria rose to 1.01 trillion naira as of the end of April. Figures obtained from the CBN's report from members of its Monetary Policy Committee said between January and February 2022, the bank disbursed 29.67 billion naira under the Anchor Borrowers Program for the procurement of inputs and cultivation of maize, rice, and wheat, 3 crops that hitherto were significant concerns of FX demand. These disbursements bring the total under the program to over 4.52 million smallholder farmers cultivating 21 commodities across the country, comes to a total of 975.61 billion naira. In entertainment news, the trial in Hollywood star Johnny Depp's defamation case against his ex-wife actor Amber Heard is coming to a close after over a month of dramatic and at times graphic testimonies. Jurors have begun deliberations following 6 weeks of evidence and testimony that detailed the former Hollywood couple's sad relationship. Depp, 58, is suing Heard for $50 million, saying she defamed him when she claimed she was a victim of domestic abuse, and has testified that he never hit Heard and argues that she was the abuser in their relationship. According to entertainment attorney Mitra Ahurian, there is no clear winner in the case.
I don't think it's a winning lawsuit for either of them, just based on defamation. Just based on, is there enough of a defamatory statement that rises to the level of being malicious? So both untrue and malicious. And that's, I don't think either case rises to that. So the jury is not sequestered, right, which is surprising. You would think that on a case like this, they would be sequestered in a hotel room or something where at least they don't have access to the public. How are you avoiding what's going on in the world around this case? You know, you got to not be on the internet. You have to not listen to conversations, you know, in passing. You have to basically stay home and hope your family doesn't talk about it realistically. And if they do, I mean, they're jeopardizing the entire process of the justice system, right? So if they do and they get caught, there could be fines, there could be jail time.
And as news updates for more stories, please follow us on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa and Plus TV Africa Lifestyle. I am Adebanke Odunui. Thank you for watching.
I know you're looking at me, you watch me like TV. You're looking at me 3 times in a row. If you want to say hello,